Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to another video, and boy oh boy do I have some big news for you guys today. So over on playstormgate.com they've just dropped a new blog post called Looking Ahead, Stormgate's Path Forward, and it's basically detailing how they have received additional funding to carry on developing the game, and there is also a video showing off mainly the new Infernal faction, how they're going to be overhauling the units, the buildings, pretty much the entire theme of the race. And really it looks like they're doing a pretty major overhaul to all of the themes for the three races and the overall visual identity for the game, which I think is something that the vast majority of people definitely wanted to see, and it's been one of the biggest critical points of feedback. So in a moment, let's dive into this blog post, but before we do, if you guys do enjoy the content here on the channel, make sure that you are subscribed so you keep up to date with everything Stormgate related, as well as other RTS games as well. We do dabble in those every now and again. And as always guys, thank you so much for your continued support, really appreciate it. Alrighty, so let's just take this from the top here. This blog post is written by Tim Campbell, one of the game directors, one of the two Tims, and he says, "Hello everyone, Tim Campbell here. We'd like to take a moment to reflect on where Stormgate is today and share our vision for the road ahead. Those of you who have been following our journey already know that the last few months have been incredibly challenging for us, though they've also been deeply enlightening. We know that our early access launch didn't meet your expectations or ours. We felt pressure to get the game into players' hands, but doing so before the game could make a positive first impression was the wrong move. Key areas of the game needed significantly more time to develop, and we released far too early. That mistake is on us, and we regret it. While this was a tough lesson, we've taken it to heart. Going forward, we need to give things more time to cook. Unfortunately, there's no save and reload in real life, and ever since we kicked off early access, we've been working hard to figure out the best path forward. Today, our team remains committed to delivering a Stormgate experience worthy of your time and passion. We believe that despite the rocky start, we can still achieve something great." So I think that's a nice, good opening paragraph there. They are taking responsibility and acknowledging the fact that they definitely didn't release at the right time. I guess they felt like they needed to do that in order to gain some more financial traction there, start making some money. But of course, it was kind of a catch-22 situation, because if you release a product that isn't ready for the community and people don't appreciate it, they're certainly not going to spend any money on it. And, well, we all know how that turned out. So this next part of the blog post is called Refocusing and Reshaping. And he says, "We are moving forward as a leaner, more focused team. Our top development priorities are now crystal clear: the campaign and versus 1v1 play, our moment-to-moment RTS gameplay, followed immediately by our Team Mayhem mode." So that's the new 3v3 mode that's coming. "We need to get the foundational modes polished as a precursor to adding more innovation. These core experiences are where we're dedicating the bulk of our efforts, and we believe these modes have the potential to truly shine after we've dedicated more time to them. Other features like the map editor and expanded co-op content are still part of our longer term planning, but they won't take priority until we've gotten further along with the other key modes. We know many of you really want to get started making maps and building mods and new game modes, but we need to be smart about how to allocate our limited resources, and we are focusing on the core game experiences first and foremost. We've updated our roadmap accordingly, but as always, remember that development plans may evolve as we continue to listen to your feedback." So let's take a look at the roadmap and how it's shaping up, because this roadmap has seen quite a few changes over the past few months. So first of all, we have coming soon, and anything that has been prioritized by direct community feedback is denoted here by the star. So one of those things is fully customizable hotkeys. Then we have the switch vision functionality for the replay, so you'll be able to look at a specific player's vision in the game, which is of course integral to a good replay mode. We've got the pause functionality outside of the campaign. It is of course already in the campaign. And then for versus, we've got improved range indicators, match start countdown, which I think is another really important thing there, because as we know, different people have different hard drives. Some people maybe load in a split second sooner and gain some small advantage. Post game flow improvements, pretty rudimentary on that end at the moment, and creep camp improvements as well. In the next up section, we have a lot of campaign improvements coming. So first of all, a major overhaul of chapter 0 and 1. Those are the two chapters that are in the game at the moment. A new campaign hub level, hero leveling and customizable abilities, more hero glow-ups, so like what we've seen for Amara, you can expect something similar for all the heroes in the campaign, improved subsystems as well, items, journals, cutscenes, and etc., improved campaign dialogue, and then mid-mission saves and loads. And then again for versus here, we have updated economy and game pacing, and then major map updates. And then as we look towards the future, we have of course chapter 2 and 3 for the campaign, and then for versus, improvements to the observer mode, improvements to the replay system, overhaul of the Infernal faction, which we are going to take an in-depth look at in a moment, and look at all of the concept art that they've shown us for the brand new, as far as I can tell, Infernal faction. AI placement matches for the ladder, tier 3 units, some of those are still of course missing from the game, the alpha version of the editor, and then of course the 3v3 Team Mayhem launch, which is going to be one of Stormgate's most innovative new modes. And for anybody wondering about the customizable hotkeys, they have a side note here, and it says fully customizable hotkeys are a top priority for us, listed first on the roadmap for a reason. We agree with those of you who have let us know that they are long overdue, and our team will breathe a collective sigh of relief once they're finally in the game. This has to be one of the things I've seen criticized the most by casuals and pros alike, that you can't properly customize the hotkeys in the game. I've seen it absolutely everywhere, and it's actually really nice to see that Frost Giant have taken notice of that, and so they are putting this as, it looks like, the absolute top priority to get this in as soon as possible. So that's what the roadmap sort of looks like going forward. That's where their heads are at the moment. But how are they going to do that if they don't have any resources, if they don't have any more funding? Surely the studio's got to shut down, right, without any money. It's not making any money from the in-game store. So what is going on that front? So Tim says here, we've seen concerns expressed about the future of Stormgate. As an independent studio, we do have limited resources. We are able to share some good news. Bitcraft, one of the investors who helped launch Frost Giant Studios, is leading an additional funding round to support our journey. Their continued investment means the world to us and will help enable us to deliver a solid 1.0 release, which we are tentatively aiming for in the second half of next year. We want to be very clear here, any potential launch date is not set in stone, as a lot can change over the course of development. And I would honestly not be surprised at all if development bleeds into 2026, if not even beyond that. Obviously a lot of this depends on how much funding they get, but they really cannot afford to release another build of the game, a 1.0 build of the game, that doesn't live up to player expectations, doesn't live up to the hype that they've created around the game, and isn't a finished, polished experience. But I am quietly confident, well, maybe not so quietly, and also pretty hopeful. You guys know me, I try to be as optimistic as possible on these fronts. Now, getting additional funding is certainly good news. That means they're going to be able to carry on developing the game, and that's the bottom line, right? If they don't get more funding, there's no way they continue that. There's no way that they can continue to pay the developers' wages. It's a bit of a catch-22 at the same time. If you remember, the reason that Frost Giant Games didn't want to have a publisher is that they didn't want to give up any of their creative freedoms. Now, naturally, if you're asking for more investment, you're going to have to offset that by offering more equity in your company, and if you're going to have a board of directors which is made up of your investors, those people are going to have more say when it really comes down to any big decisions. So taking on more investment really, I can only imagine, means that you're losing more of your creative freedoms. Now, hopefully, Bitcraft Ventures, and this totally depends on how much they've already taken from them. I don't have the exact numbers, but I know they got 20 million, or the lion's share of the initial investment, from Cacao Games, not Bitcraft Ventures, I don't think. So depending on how much they've taken from them now, who knows how much sway they have in the company overall. But hopefully, fingers crossed, they are a company who are just going to leave Frost Giant Games alone, let them do their thing, take the time that they need, and release the game, like I said before, when it's good and ready. Because the last thing we need is an investor or somebody coming in and starting to pull on strings and applying pressure to them to release the game before it's actually ready. I'm also very curious to know how much money they've gotten, like how long is this money going to last? Obviously, they've said here that they have a tentative date of late next year, or the latter half of next year for the 1.0 release. So that means they've probably got, I would say, at least another 12 months of development time. And hopefully this investment is going to allow for more than that if they need it as well. There is going to be an AMA on Reddit this Friday, and I'm almost certain that somebody is going to ask how much more of an investment they got from Bitcraft here, because I will be very interested to know whether they decide to answer that or not, though I guess is completely up to Frostgiant. Okay, the next section here is called To Those Playing and Waiting. We also understand that many of you are holding off until our official launch before diving into Stormgate. Time is our most precious resource. You have to choose between a wealth of great games out there, spending time with friends and family, or just catching up on much needed sleep. We are incredibly grateful to all of you who have played Stormgate during early access, but we eagerly look forward to welcoming those of you who have decided to wait until the game is at 1.0. We respect that decision and will be here when you're ready. For those of you who are playing, your feedback has been invaluable. Every suggestion, critique and bug report helps us shape Stormgate into the game we all want it to be. Your passion fuels our work and we are listening. All feedback is a gift and we are grateful to have yours. And I really do think there are a lot of players who are waiting for the 1.0 release, or at least until the game is in a decent enough state to jump in and play. It's evident to me that a lot of you guys are keeping your eyes on the game, or at least one eye on the game, checking in every now and again to see what's going on with it, but you're not necessarily there playing the game every day. And honestly, I think that's probably like over 90% of people who are interested in the game. And as sad as that sounds, it's actually a good thing. I look at this in an optimistic way, because that means that if Frostgiant Games do a good job and they get the game into a much better state by the time 1.0 rolls around, then hopefully there is going to be an eager RTS audience ready to jump back in and give the game another go. Alright, enough about that, let's get on to the juicy stuff, guys. Let's take a look at the new identity for the Infernals. So Tim says here, we are pleased to share that we've also been making exciting strides on the visual front. Our new art director has jumped in with fresh ideas to elevate the look and feel of our core factions. We know some units have needed extra care and we're giving them the love they deserve. Units like the Brute, Hedgehog, Fiend and Lancer are getting updates to better contribute to strengthening faction identity and making our game more memorable and fun. The early concepts Alan has shared with the team since he hit the ground running have been inspiring, and we are eager to hear your thoughts. To give you a sneak peek, Alan and Chris have prepared a short video showcasing some of these new designs. You may have seen some of these designs in a recent interview, but this should still be worth a watch. We hope you're as excited about the direction we're taking as we are. So a lot of you guys will probably have already seen this video from Frostgiant Games here, but I just wanted to reiterate some of my feelings on it. I don't know about you guys, but I really love the direction that they're taking with the Infernals. It's just such a great improvement here. All of these glyphs and the glowing lines, it sort of reminds me of almost Doom, actually. A little bit Diablo as well. Obviously there's like less blood and guts than there is in Doom, but there's just such a menacing, evil air about this Brute here. You know, the old Brute, it's honestly just kind of goofy and almost laughable and lovable in a weird way. This Brute looks like it means business. And you can also tell that they've thought a lot about readability with this unit. That was a huge point of critique for Stormgate, is that especially with the Infernals, I think people just couldn't really see what was going on with them. Like, what am I looking at here? Which units are mine? Which are the enemies? There's fiends and gaunts all over the place. But just look at that big cleaver with the red accent on the edge of the blade there. That's like a beautiful touch, making that the color accent, because it makes sense, right? Because they've got all of these glyph lines and they've got some sort of a sci-fi, almost technology to the way they look now. And you know, here again, another great example of the difference between the red color and the blue color. That is going to really help with readability, I think. The fiends here, again, looking pretty cool. They've got, as he said in the video, this sort of raptor-like look to them. They still do look pretty Zergling-like. Like, if I think all the way back to StarCraft 1, there's a cutscene where there's this Zergling just going ham on a Marine, just ripping out all of his organs with the claws. That kind of reminds me of the way this unit looks here. But I also like the split tail, very demonic and devil-like looking there. the neon claws. Like, what are these claws? How are they made of fire? Are they made of some sort of glowing neon element material? I don't even know, but one thing I do know is that this unit looks pretty cool. Another thing as well you'll notice on the side of them is these glyphs, these markings that they've got, and that seems to be part of the theme here throughout the entire Infernal faction that they're going for. Then they've got the new Gaunt. Now, the Gaunt was probably one of the weakest looking Infernal units to me. I've never really liked the way that it looks. You'll notice it has a mask, so the original Gaunt has a mask as well, and actually Alan talks a little bit in the video about them wanting to make that part of the theme of the Infernals, where they have a culture of wearing a mask until they've sort of proven their prowess in battle, and only then are you allowed to remove your mask and show your true identity. But this is much more of a sort of centaur look here. Again, very strong colors, those same glyph markings, and then this time they've actually got some sort of an energy glaive. So instead of throwing like little bouncing axes, which seems like a very random weapon selection, to be honest with you, when I think about it, for the Gaunts, for the Infernal faction, they're now going to be throwing these energy glaives, which may or may not bounce around. And again, with all of his color, I think this is going to make readability for this unit all the more better. It's also a quadruped, so that's going to help with things there as well. I think this is one of my favorite ones here. This is a caster concept. Obviously, this isn't a unit that's necessarily in the game or even going to be in the game yet. All of this stuff is concept, by the way, guys, so just bear that in mind. This may not be exactly what it looks like, but this is what they're going for. And again, they've got this floating glyph between the horns, so slightly technological. There is like some technological vibe now to the Infernals that I feel wasn't necessarily there before, and I'm definitely all for that. I really like the 6 arms just folded there. Like, I don't know how somebody came up with that. That is absolutely nutty, and that definitely makes me think like some kind of horror movie stuff. And the fact that they've all got armored braces on there to protect the inner sort of body with this like glowing core that he has inside of him. I don't know, man. I think it's a very interesting design. Then we have this satanic sort of succubus looking lady here. She's got this key and what they're calling a Pandora's box, and she's supposed to slam this key down into the box here, turn the key, and it casts some kind of spell. Originally, I didn't think this concept sounded like too cool. I was like, that sounds kind of weird. What, she's got to like float around on a box and then like open the box to cast a spell? But now when I start to see some more examples of the fact that box doesn't necessarily need to be a box, it could be an orb, or it could be like she floats around with these rotating rings or something like that. And looking through the iterative process that they're going for here is selling me on this concept more and more. Again, how does this orb move around? I can only assume that it's going to float. Or maybe she just sort of runs around and then she summons the orb and then puts the key in there. What's the key going to do when it's not being put into the box? Who knows? But I can already imagine the animation of this cube with all of these different segments, moving parts there. It is going to look really, really nice. So I think this was the only 3D model that they showed here of an example of a monolith. So this might be one of the themes that the Infernal buildings have. And then they gave some more examples of this here, and things obviously look very similar. These floating stones basically seems to be part of the theme. I really like it. Again, it's tying into that kind of technology that the Infernals have. Some sort of demonic technology, but I guess a technology nevertheless. One of the races that the Infernals have been compared to, of course, is the Zerg, but now they seem so far away from the Zerg in terms of theme, because obviously those are like these slimy aliens with spawning pools and all of this green goop and these embryonic pods and all that sort of stuff. Whereas the Infernals, looking at these building ideas here, things look just much more clean. Again, you'll notice that they've also taken great care to place any of the color elements in very obvious places, which is going to aid with readability there once again. They also showed another concept for the Hedgehog here, so it's become much more of like a bike type design now. And then as you can see, it transforms into like a missile launcher of sorts. I have to say, out of everything that's been shown in this video, this is the only one that I'm just not super keen on. I don't know what it is about the Hedgehog, but I've just never really looked at it as a unit that I've fallen in love with. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily bad, but I just don't look at it and say, wow, like that is super cool, the same way that I'm looking at the Brute and just, you know, absolutely in awe with how cool this dude looks with the massive lumbering sword on his back. I know not every unit can look like that. There has to be some variation here. I'm not sure if it's something to do with the tires, these like big rolling like rubber balls it looks like. I guess practically it makes sense for the unit so that it can move around on all of the different planes of motion and get around in that way. But visually, to me, it just looks kind of derpy. I don't know, maybe I'm alone on that one. What do you guys think of the design here? Like, I'd prefer if it was just some kind of a more standard-looking missile car of some sort. That being said, though, it's always going to be a catch-22 because then you're going to get flack for them saying, oh, you're just copying the Cyclone if it's like a missile car, which is basically what the Cyclone from StarCraft 2 is. But yeah, leave your thoughts on that down below, guys. And to wrap things up here, these are Tim's closing words. So he says, thank you for believing. To everyone who's part of the Stormgate community, thank you. We know we need to do better in setting expectations and communicating our plans, and we're committed to improving. This game is a labour of love, and while we can't promise to deliver everything on our development wishlist today, we still believe in the vision of Stormgate, a game with the potential to be truly great. We're grateful to have the privilege to keep working on Stormgate. With your continued support and a little luck, we hope to build something that lasts for years to come. Thank you for being on the journey with us. With our sincerest thanks, Tim Campbell, Game Director. So, what an interesting wrap up to the end of this year. I guess they wanted to sort of get that off of their chests before they go on vacation for the holidays, like most of us are going to do as well. And I, for one, am going to go into the new year excited to see what Stormgate is going to bring to the table. Guys, I want to thank you for sticking with me, hanging around with me here on the channel, and listening to me waffle on about something that I love. I really do appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think about this all down below. I know there is quite a lot to digest here. But again, if you're somebody who has not really liked the look of Stormgate, it's kind of been a no from you since day one, are these changes something that you feel is drawing you back to maybe take a look at the game and give it a second chance or not? And if not, then what would you prefer to see? Have a good one, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.